My first connection to the field of writing came early. So early, in fact, that the memories of light on the page and my mother's calming voice are grainy now. I don't remember my age, nor do I remember the time of year. I don't remember if my sister was there or not, or if we'd had the book for a while. I don't remember if this was the first time the tale had been read to me, or if the comforting feeling I had from listening to it meant that I had chosen it every night for a week. None of that really mattered, for I was drawn into the story. The details I do remember are small. The picture of an old, frizzy-haired witch sitting on a bed in an attic. The page with two burglars hiding something in a wooden barrel. A boy and his mother driving in a car towards a house filled with wonders.
Nicky and his mother had made a long trip to New England. They didn't have much money and they wanted to buy an old house to turn into a tea room. Nicky's mother had in mind a special kind of house.
This was my first and favorite book from childhood, but it wouldn't be my last. I soon found that I loved books for the sake of being books. And early on, I was drawn into their worlds by images, by the visual element of the stories that always stayed burned into my mind when I read them. I liked the physical element of everything. I liked adding to my reading collection and watching it grow. I liked the feel of turning the pages. I liked the random pattern of multicolored book spines on my bookshelf. But above all, I loved images elicited by the words within them. I loved being absorbed. And I was, in so many different tales. In elementary school, I was introduced to the library. It was similar to the bookstores my mother had taken me to as a child, but so much better. It was free. Looking at the etymology of the word library, we see that the structure of such an institution can be broad. Wherever there's a collection of books, there can be a library. Historically, these were physical structures, much as the Lexington Public Library is for Lexington today, with the sole purpose of protecting legal, historical, and religious documents. In the 3rd grade, on a trip to Epcot and Disney World, I was captivated by the story of one library in particular, which was featured on the Spaceship Earth ride, a ride that happened to be my favorite.
Here, in this hostile world, is where our story begins. We are alone, struggling to survive, until we learn to communicate with one another. It takes 15,000 years to come up with the next bright idea, recording our knowledge on cave walls. There was only one small problem. When we moved, the recorded knowledge stayed behind. Now let's move ahead to ancient Egypt, because something is about to happen here that will change the future forever.
Papyrus is made, civilizations trade knowledge, and the Phoenicians devise our alphabet. In Egypt, texts from across the world are preserved.
But then we hit a roadblock. Rome falls, and the great library of Alexandria in Egypt is burned. Much of our learning is destroyed, lost forever. Or so we think.
Turns out some monks had our backs, and texts central to our development of civilization and literature lived on. Eventually, I stepped off the ride, but I always remembered the Library of Alexandria and the crucial role it played for so long in archiving the world's tales. I began building up my own library, one filled with all the works that piqued my imagination. Stories with heroines like Cam Jansen, the Hardy Boys, and the Boxcar Children. Stories with fantasies that revolved around the Bailey School kids. Stories that took me through history in a magic treehouse. I was hooked. Not long after, I decided I wanted to try my own hand at writing. My life goal was to get my own name on the spine of a book that would be in a library shelf. My stories were all for children, for people my age with my concerns and my level of imagination. As Astrid Lindgren once wrote, "I don't want to write for adults. I want to write for readers who can perform miracles. Only children perform miracles when they read." But as I grew up, I was drawn into the world of academic team, and my writing slanted more towards nonfiction. I competed in written composition and was introduced to a field that completely changed the way I viewed writing, future problem solving. FPS is a creative writing event that was founded in 1984 by Dr. E. Paul Torrens. In this competition, teams of 4 are given 2 hours to analyze an issue facing a global community 10, 20, 30 years into the future and write about ways to solve it. From this process, I gained an interest in social justice, scientific writing, and technologies of the future. I came to UK in the fall of 2013, just after 2 years of intensive practice with FPS's model of critical analysis, creative writing, and strategic thinking. I was an English major, and I thought I wanted to teach kids how to write. But I got into a word class and stumbled across something else I enjoyed: research. So I set to work interviewing members of Lexington's oldest bagpipe band and got to hear some great tunes along the way. The majority of my freshman year was consumed by the William Sutherland Reed Pipes and Drums Band. I followed them to the St. Patrick's Day Parade, attended their Robert Burns birthday dinner, and collected oral histories from 2 members of its namesake family. Research on this was a lot of fun and gave writing a sense of purpose for me. Like the library in Alexandria, I was preserving important tales. I just hoped the project wouldn't burn down. Now, I'm approaching the part of my life where it's up to me to make a choice about my career. I love reading, writing, hearing stories and telling them. I love teaching, meeting people, and feeling connected to them. I love strategic thinking, critical analysis, and research. But what should I do? Up to this point, I've been freely drafting the narrative of my life. Drafting. Yes, I use that writing term to pun. But in many ways, it's a very accurate description of where I am and what I've done till now. My mother, who got me hooked on language and images by reading to me as a child, always told me to follow my heart, chase my dreams, continue wishing. I think I'm 4 or so in this photo, just starting out in life and learning to wish, blowing the pieces of a dandelion and letting them scatter. I know what I wished in that photo, not because I remember saying it in my mind, but because I always wish for the same thing: happiness. I could try to get my PhD or go on to teach high school. I could spend my life as a technical writer and read up on futuristic inventions, or write children's books or spend my days critiquing existing novels. I could go into advertising and create endless pitches for the images before me. All of these options are viable. But how do I know what to choose when I've blown the seeds of my passion everywhere and all the flowers look just as nice? Which way do I run? For now, I know that I like stories and that language thrills me. I know that I like people and preserving their tales. I know that rhetoric and composition is a good field for me, and I'll stay planted here in place until I decide the next step.
Everything's coming